Nick Sirianni, the Eagles head coach, who last night got a victory 27-17 over Washington in the game that was delayed by 2 days because of Washington's COVID outbreak, and Philadelphia right now in the thick of things in the NFC playoff picture. The next day, he tests positive for COVID. If that had happened a day earlier, the 2-day delay to accommodate Washington would have resulted in Philadelphia not having their head coach for last night's game. Here's Sirianni from earlier today talking about the symptoms that he's experiencing, if any, from his COVID diagnosis.
Yeah, wasn't feeling great this morning when I woke up and just got tested, and obviously we are where we are right now. I mean, I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling a little bit better now, which is good. And then the rest of the week, I'll be in every meeting as if, obviously virtually, as if that every single meeting, every quarterback meeting, every offensive meeting, every team meeting, I'll be running those. And yeah, just business as usual.
I don't know if they've quietly read the riot act to these guys or whatever the case may be, but I know that the first reaction when the new protocol was put in place, that in many respects relies on the honor system of raising your hand and saying, I don't feel too good. I'm surprised that Sirianni came forward. Unless their symptom checks are far more rigorous than what I've heard, there's a point where you have to raise your hand and say, I need to get tested. And there are plenty of guys who wouldn't. And I don't know whether it is a sign of integrity or a sign of not knowing how to work his way through the weeds to be available to his team. But he did the right thing in an environment where I think far more of the players and coaches and staff are not going to do the same thing. They're not going to put their hand in the air and say, I can't go forward today.
Well, it really depends on how severe the mild symptoms are, right? Because I think for many different people, mild symptoms means something else. Right, so I have 3 people very close to me who have tested positive for COVID-19 and don't live near me. So and that's good. I'm not really at risk, but they've all experienced what people would call mild symptoms over the course of the last week. But some of that means, sore throat, headache, not being able to taste food, severe congestion, fever. So it could be any number of different things that people consider mild. But when you're not necessarily getting to go to the hospital, that's still preventing severe illness and disease. So it's like, I don't necessarily know what mild is, but, you could still show outward symptoms without really being that sick. And if you are showing outward symptoms, I don't know, Mike, like if somebody looks like they're, peaked or something and they're coughing or whatever it happens to be, I'm kind of looking at them funny, like, bro, you really ought to get a COVID test. Like, because I don't want to get this thing. Because no matter what mild happens to be, if I can't taste food for a week, I don't really want that. So, we can say whether or not guys are really going to raise their hand and say, oh, yeah, I probably should go get a test. But I don't know, man. I don't want this thing. And I just feel like if you're in a building with somebody else and you're thinking like, I may have this thing, I don't think I want to give it to somebody else, because even if I am vaccinated, even if I am boosted, and the people who have tested positive who are close to me are, you still may get something out of this.
That word peaked is a word from the past. That was one of the 3 primary tests that my mother would use when I was a kid to determine whether or not I was sick. Peaked. Also, checking the tongue for a white coating, because apparently if you're sick, your tongue gets coated white. And the back of the hand temperature check on the forehead, which was much preferred to the back of the line thermometer insertion. Yes, after it was fortunately coated with Vaseline for, I still just remember,
Move on.
You don't remember many things from when you're 3 years old.
1930s? Yeah.
Merry Christmas. Getting your temperature checked in a way that apparently was far more reliable than putting it under your tongue. Good Lord, why did they do that to kids back then? Why did they wait so long to develop? Why did they wait so long to develop the thing where they just put it on your forehead? The back of the hand, the technology that simulates it. I'm telling you, there was nothing more traumatic when you were 3. All right. Let's move
That's
on.
an image that
Robert
I'm
Saleh.
sure a lot of our viewers and listeners don't want to, have in their brains.
The
So,
Jets
let's talk about Robert
head coach.
Saleh.
And you could never read the damn thing either. That it was like beat the clock to turn it just right so you could see where the mercury was to get that glimpse of where it was. And if you waited too long, then it had to be reinserted. All right, Robert Saleh is tested positive for COVID-19. I mean, look, we can either be all serious and foreboding about this, or we can try to see some sort of humor in this mess that we're still living through. And after 2 years, I mean, my God, we take it seriously. And fortunately, the NFL hasn't had any serious cases of someone dying. Now, there have been some hospitalizations. It was more last year than this year, but it's a serious situation. We just hope we get to the point where we get it behind.
Hi, I'm Mike Tirico, and thanks for watching. Make sure to hit subscribe for the latest news and highlights from NBC Sports.